Thank you for staying with us this All Fools Day 2023. It said the social engineering attacks. If I saw that, I would actually sit down and try to wrap my head around the meaning.
Possibly get a dictionary.
But in simple terms, it is called cyber attack now. Like you sit down in your house and then your phone suddenly goes, bricky. You haven't made any transfer, but somehow money is jumping out of your account.
At least now we know your own notification tone when money goes out.
Madam, I think this boy is a cyber engineer.
Yes.
A social engineer.
Yes.
He knows how to do these things so that when he hears that tone,
you said it yourself. Why didn't you say ding dong?
Anyway, this is a cybersecurity awareness program, and it's being organized by the Committee of Social Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions, who are represented here this morning by Mrs. Wumi Faiga. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's very big grammar you started with, social engineering attacks. Why not just cybersecurity?
Okay, so there are different types of...
okay. Get your pen and paper.
Okay, there's different types of cyber attacks.
Okay.
But today we want to talk about social engineering. It's the specific type that leverages human interaction. That interaction that we have with each other. So social engineering is exploiting that interaction, that default trust and expectations that we have of each other. So social engineering is when the threat actors, the bad guys, try to leverage that need for interaction and use it in a bad way to trick people to make mistakes and expose sensitive information.
Give us an example.
Okay, so you get a phone call and the person on the other side claims to be from the bank.
Claims to be you.
Claims to be you. To be a customer service representative from a bank. And that, they've just seen a transaction or they've just noticed something on your account and they want specific details. So once they start to ask for specific details, then you can be alarmed that this can be real. So that is one of the common forms of social engineering. Sometimes you get an email telling you input your password. Sometimes you get a text message telling you if you send a credit alert to this account or to this a recharge card number to this number, that you will win a gift. So those are different forms of social engineering. Leveraging our curiosity, leveraging a need, leveraging that fear that, something will happen to my money in my bank. Trying to create anxiety.
So when that happens, when those bad guys, as you call them, make those moves, how is the victim, so to speak, vulnerable?
Okay. Now, they leverage lack of awareness. Now, if the customer is aware that this cannot be from my bank, then the customer is more prepared. So we've seen situations where the call will come in and say, give me the number at the back of your ATM card. And then the response is 419, because the person is already aware that this is a trick. This is social engineering. Another thing is for the person or the victim not to put too much information on their social media. Sometimes they actually do research. When they have targets, they sometimes do research to see what information can we find about this person. So they start naming familiar people that you know sometimes. So we also need to be very wary of that as well.
Okay. Now, You've begun to give us hints at this, but before I even ask that question, how will the victim know? What are the things that the person who is victim, what are the things that the person will hear or perceive that will make the person know? As you said, it could come in different shapes. How would that fellow know?
Okay.
Especially when this attacker, as you call it, is saying the right things.
Yes.
Knows my wife, knows my daughter, and all those things.
First, if it's too good, if it sounds too good to be true, then
Probably
chances are it is too good to be true. So be wary if they are promising gifts. If you click, you'll win something. If you follow this link, especially if you've not entered a lottery, for instance, if you do this, you will get this. So they try to make false promises and entice their victims, right? That's one. If they start asking for personal information, what's your name, aren't you a customer of so bank? Then you already know they are fishing for information, right? So you need to be wary. If it is
sometimes
creating,
they call and say, I'm calling from your bank.
and they don't say which bank.
Which bank?
And
Your bank now?
Yes. So they are fishing for information.
Which of my banks? I have several.
Yes. So
and then they hang up.
Yes, because that's an aware customer.
I just tell them my piggy bank.
No, one actually called and said, we noticed some strange action on your account. We need you to give us some information so that we can stop it. I said, please let the strange action continue. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yes, that's the right thing to do. And when they probe that way, the best thing is for you to report to your bank or go to the nearest branch. Because banks have customer call centers, the numbers, or you go physically to the bank. As much as possible, not to give out all this information they're asking for.
Now, you already said earlier that, they get the information through their own research.
Yes.
What are the things that people have put out now that they should withdraw from the cyberspace if it is possible for them to do that?
Well, once it's online, basically it's there forever, really. So I think that the first thing is to be careful the things we post. For instance, a lot of security questions, your date of birth, your mother's maiden name, those sort of sensitive information we shouldn't put online, right? And if it is there, if we can remove it, we should aim to remove. For people that want to dispose documents, if you want to dispose forms, old account statement, old cards, we should make sure that these things are shredded and destroyed, because sometimes the method they use is what is called dumpster diving, where they go into trash to see what sensitive information may be there. So if you filled out some forms, it's better to shred it before disposing it.
How about phone numbers?
Phone numbers are really out there. So in terms of phone numbers, there is not much we can do. Your phone number is out there. You have a friend somewhere that has your number. Chances are your phone number is somewhere online. The key thing is, if or when you get that call, don't divulge information that you shouldn't. That's the key thing.
What are the most common methods of social engineering?
Okay. The most common is the phishing. Now, there are different ways. Social engineering can be online, and it can also be in person.
Oh, really?
Yes, it can be in person. But the most common one is the phishing. The phishing is where you get an email, typically when you get an email telling you to do something. Okay. Click this link. If you don't click this link, something like this will happen. Your account will be disabled. It creates that sense of anxiety and urgency that it's not real. The other common types is what we call vishing, which is voice phishing. That's the call, the phone we've been talking about, the calls you get. That's another very common type. The other type that is also common is what is called smishing. That is where you get that's where you vishing and smishing. Smishing. So SMS phishing, voice phishing. Then the classic phishing is via email, right? So the SMS phishing is where you get a text message telling you send a credit recharge card to this number, or call this number to get so amount, or if you call this, you'll win this number. That's SMS phishing. That's smishing. That's what's called smishing. Those are the common methods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, allow me to go back to the phone number thing. There are, of course, a number of people have more than one phone number.
Yes.
The details that people bank with the most are phone numbers and email addresses.
Yeah.
There are those who are looking for all the clout and everything in the world, and they put their phone numbers, I call it the transaction phone number, on your Twitter handle or Instagram, and then your email address, the same one you use for your bank account, you put it on those. Do you advise that people change those ones, or just retain them and just put up more security?
If you have the opportunity to have two numbers, it's advised to have the one you use for your bank transactions, if it's possible. It may not be possible for everyone. So if you can separate the numbers, that will be beneficial, right? Because you know that if this call comes in, it's strictly from your bank. If a message comes in or an alert comes in, it's from your bank. Then the one that is public, you know that, okay, if a call is coming in from your bank on that public number, then you know that it's most likely a phishing attempt, right?
Yeah, okay.
But I think the fundamental thing is, whether it's a private or publicly known number, the most fundamental part of it is for you to be aware that this can happen and for you to be vigilant if it is happening.
Madam, how about those who believe that some of these attacks happen in collaboration with NIBS and some bank staff?
Well, I do not think that is 100% accurate. In terms of protecting the industry, is a collaborative effort with all stakeholders. For instance, CBN has put out regulations that all members of the banking industry, financial houses, the fintechs, the payment service providers, the payment ecosystem, everyone is required to comply with all of these regulations. And CBN is very, very diligent in auditing several times a year, including even NIBS, right? And the banks. So it's a collaborative effort. Now, knowing that this is social engineering, even when the banks, CBN has put all the regulations in place, the banks have invested so much money to put in all sorts of technologies in place to detect, in terms of the banking applications, the mobile applications, there are all sorts of technologies in place. You're supposed to have your two-factor, that's what the second factor, a PIN you should keep private and secret to yourself, right? So when all of this has been put in place, it's a collaborative effort between the stakeholders and the customers. Now, it's now up to us playing our part. As a customer, we shouldn't share information. We shouldn't trust that person and say, okay, take my ATM card and withdraw money for me. Now, if that has to happen, then you need to make sure that you need to change the PIN of that ATM card. So it's a collaborative effort between everyone to keep us secure.
How easily can your committee effect arrest of a cyber criminal? Has any been done?
This happens, yes. The committee is a committee of CISOs of all the banks, deposit money banks, the merchant banks, fintechs, payment service providers, right? Now, the committee in itself doesn't carry out the arrest.
Okay.
However, the individual institutions collaborate and work together. So when there is any, such cases,
will get law enforcement involved.
Okay. We work with law enforcement.
Has any criminals?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, okay.
Quite a few. I'm sure you see in the news.
Okay. Quickly, we have about 2 minutes.
Okay.
So, you CISOs, as you would say, you believe that there is a 4-step sequence to social engineering attacks.
Yes.
You want to take us through them so people will know?
Okay. So the first the first step is the malicious actor, threat actor as we call them, or the
bad guy.
The bad guy, yes, the bad guy, would carry out research. They carry out research. So that's what I was talking about, being careful about the amount of information we divulge online. So they use that to research. Then the second part is interaction. They now try to make a connection. So they can send messages online to try to connect on Facebook or to try to connect on LinkedIn or whichever other social media.
Instagram.
Right, Instagram as well. Snapchat, Twitter, and all of that. Then after that interaction, they try to build trust, right? So that interaction, you start to relax and get comfortable. At the same time, they're still doing research to see and find out additional information. Now, after all of that has been done, then they do what is called the exploitation. They start to exploit that relationship to see how they can manipulate. Then the final stage is where they carry out the execution, where they carry out these actions. So those are the stages, but I think the key thing is at every stage we need to be aware and we need to be vigilant.
Not when you don't have cash, you have money, you don't have cash, and somebody wants to take your money. When you are not, because you are not able to get the cash, I can't even begin it. We have to thank you very much for all the work that you've done so far, you and your committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions. Thank you so much, Mrs. Wumi Faiga, CISO Sterling Bank. Thank you. Truly appreciate your time here today.
Glad to be here.
Well, now you know. Do yourself a favor and protect what you have. We're back after now.